Hey,
Hello, good evening. Good evening,
good
good evening.
evening.
Good to see you.
Ah, yes,
Yay!
yes.
Spring is springing.
Spring is springing. It dipped a little bit in temperatures
Yep.
today. I felt a little chillier today and yesterday, but
hmm
yeah, we have hope for springtime.
And today is a national holiday that has a darker side to it. Do you know about St. Patrick's Day?
I knew it was something about driving the snakes out of Ireland. But
Uh-huh.
other
It's
than
based
green
on
beans.
that. Yep. It's the story of St. Patrick's driving out snakes is a story of the Catholics persecuting the pagans. The snakes are the pagans. So, so
Oh,
pagans actually hate or disapprove of St. Patrick's Day because they're celebrating the persecution of their ancestors.
oh my
And that's why
gosh.
you'll see memes that say, "Here's to all the snakes who lived. This is one snake you missed," and words like that. And that's what they're talking about. The
I
snakes
did
were the
not know
pagans.
that.
Top of the evening to you in the Irish culture. May all your wishes except one, so that you will always have something to strive for.
Yay!
Bravo, bravo. Talk to
Top of
you,
the evening
Deborah.
to you
Thank
too,
you.
Deborah. You
Happy,
take the.
happy, happy.
No, I was going to say you take the high road. I'll take the low. That's Scotland.
Yeah, you take the high road and I'll take the low road. Yeah. And I'll be in Scotland before you or something, some city.
For you, for
Yay.
me and my true love. Yeah,
Love
but
will
that's.
never meet again. Yeah. Wrong culture.
I know we're going to scare people off. Uh,
Absolutely. So, welcome all the new people that are here tonight. Welcome to the channel. I'm Margot Ross Sears. This is wrong way. This is Iris Carter. So, Iris, run us down what we're doing this week and what's coming next week.
well, this week we're talking about uh fourth dimension. We talked a couple of weeks ago about, or density, I should say. I don't want to mess it up.
Right.
But a couple of weeks ago we talked about achieving densities of, and I guess before I get too deep into what that is and what that means, let me just mention next week's also. So we're going to talk about how to get to fourth or fifth density tonight. And then next week, I'm really excited. I have a dear friend, and I was going to show the little flyer I did for it. His name is Paul Nixon, and he is from Ireland, and he's been in America for, I don't know, 30 years, maybe 20, 30 years. And he this the house in the photograph is his grandmother's house, and that was in Sligo, Ireland. And he's just a fascinating person. He's told me all kinds of stories. We used to work together, and he in addition to a wonderful voice, love listening to him talk. He's got these fascinating stories. Like his grandmother would give him warnings about the fairies and don't go to certain areas by yourself. And he's had encounters with unusual beings that maybe, that I'll let him tell more about it. But, the folklore, there's more to the Irish folklore than what you would
Think.
think.
And what
Yes.
you've heard in mainstream. Right. Right.
Right. And so he's told, and then he's done so many interesting things. And he lives in Greensboro now. He's a sculptor, a painter. He has created some of the famous artwork that's around the city. There's a sculpture in front of the main fire department that he did. Some people know the Grandover Lion that sits at the entrance to the Grandover Resort. He did that. He's done smaller things. He did something for hospice, and it's a little dog that used to be a service dog, and they wanted to memorialize it, and things like that. And then just to see his paintings and his carvings and all that stuff. So we're looking forward to having him next week, and I'll show that flyer again. Hello, Nancy. And yeah, so back to to tonight. When we talk about densities, we're talking about vibrational levels. Everything is electricity,
Everything
and
vibrates.
everything
Everything.
vibrates. Yes, and so we've
On a
even seen.
molecular scale, on an atomic, subatomic, and and molecular scale,
And,
everything
if,
vibrates.
and in fact,
Right.
this would be the time to bring this up because this fella knows his stuff.
Yeah.
Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it, says Albert Einstein. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics.
Yay!
Yeah, and so when you think about everything is vibrating, it's electrical, and you can measure. Nancy says energy, frequency, vibration. Yes, very much. Um,
All the same thing. Yeah.
yeah, and we've seen, I've seen it in movies and stuff where they'll talk about, um, you know, seeing a ghost or something, and the spirit says, "I can't hold my vibration this low very long," and then they disappear, and it's because they're at a different frequency level,
Frequency. Different
just like
vibration.
tuning the radio, depending on how clear the path is. You might be able to hear Chicago on I remember listening to Chicago on an AM radio when I was like 10 years
Yeah.
old and thought that was so cool. But you have to.
Ham radios do that too now. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Shortwave.
um
Yeah.
and so when you've got uh first level of beings, or
Density.
whatever, for first density is minerals and rocks and
Elements.
the elements, yeah.
Air.
And then
Fire.
air, fire, water, earth. Yeah,
Earth includes fire, air, water, earth, and ethers.
that's it.
Yeah.
And then the second is animal and plant life.
Mm-hmm.
And so and that's also said to be the same realm where fairies are, and that sort of thing. We need to do a show on that sometime because I think they're fascinating. And excuse me. Um, so they're at a different vibrational level, and then
Their vibration is more dense than
yeah,
the elements. Yeah.
and then the third level we have, or is it less dense? Is it more dense
More
or
dense.
less?
It's more dense.
Higher is denser.
Higher density is more density. Yeah.
Okay. And then third is humans,
Yeah.
which is, and it's kind of where we are, or what we consider, and we're vibrating at a certain level. And then when you go into fourth, you're vibrating more from the heart. Right now on the human level, we're more what is the purpose of the vibration? It's not harder.
Your heart sets most of your frequency. Your heart is the most or the strongest source of your vibrational frequency. So the more heart focused, more heart centered, and healthier heart that you have, either energetically or physically or both, the more your vibration goes up based on your heart frequency, which is the definition of fourth density.
Right.
Right.
And I know, like, in third density we get bogged down with ego and um the duality, right or wrong.
We reincarnate over and over to
It's
deal with
karma
with those,
based kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
to deal with those lessons in the third density.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but then in the fourth, when you're coming from heart, you're recognizing the love that is involved and that it's not
It's all
judgmental.
love. Yeah.
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 And then in the fifth density, that is from wisdom. You can be smart in the third density, but doesn't mean you're as wise as you would be in the fifth. Um, and if you think about uh, uh, beings like Buddha and Jesus, and
Yes. Third,
they're
fifth
they're up there in
density and up.
fifth and up, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's that's a lot
It's a
different
level
than
of consciousness that goes with it. Yeah.
yeah.
That wisdom that has heart as well. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and we kind of talked about this, like I said, 2 weeks ago. So you can go back to YouTube or Facebook and find the podcast if you want to see more in depth on that. But we just wanted to touch on it to kind of talk about what we're talking about tonight, which is how do you get there? What's the secret? Tell us.
What happens between here and there? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I took some notes, and the next point that I want is a little more in depth. And before I speak at length about the information that I'm going to bring to you, I want to qualify where I got this information from. And it largely came from two sources. And when I described it to Iris before the show, I realized one source is third density and the other source is fourth density. I got this from. So the third density information is that, like my husband, David Sears, I do a lot of research, listen to, read a lot of gurus, spiritual teachers, spiritual leaders in many cultures, but obviously most of them are English speaking or English translated because that's what I understand mostly. But across the board, it is understood that Earth and humans are now at a pivotal time in history, time being a relative thing, but that's a whole nother discussion. We're at an energetic juncture of shifting from a third density existence as a collective, as a whole planet, as a whole human race of 8 million plus people, the planet and the people and everything else on here, all the beings on here, and some
No.
ETs as well. Again, a whole nother discussion. We all have to shift from third density to fourth density to fifth density because Gaia, the planet itself, is shifting. And it's extremely difficult for a third density being to survive on a 4D, 5D vibrating planet because your vibration does not match. You're too slow. You're still dealing with karma and duality and fear and negativity and trying to seek balance and all these energetic issues that 4Ds and 5Ds don't have.
And you know
So,
what's interesting is I was just reading something about how the planet, if you get the electronic vibrational reading of the planet,
yeah,
it's at a certain frequency that matches humans. But
yes,
now it's gradually going up. And so there is science behind the
there is. That's called the Schumann resonance. And we've talked about that in past episodes too. And matter of fact, you've run a banner ribbon about that, about
yeah.
websites where people can learn more about Schumann resonance. Yeah, the Schumann resonance is going up all over the planet, which means the rest of us have to go up too.
Yeah.
So, why go from 3 to 4? Now, one reason, the planet is shifting. We have to shift. We'll talk about how and how fast and all that in just a few minutes. Also, we need to shift up as individuals. Again, why would we do that? Well, once you shift from 3D to 4D to 5D, D being density, you're happier, you're healthier, life is easier, There is a whole lot more to discover. Your sense of creativity and research and aha moments based in happiness and joy and bliss and ecstasy are 10 times easier to do. There's instant abundance, instant ease. There's no such thing as fear and lack once you get to the other end of 4 and move into 5. All these benefits of existing that do nothing but promote joy and more learning. So it's not like everybody's happy and now we're bored. There's no conflict. No, that's 3D thinking. On the 4D, 5D, you take away those conflicts and your opportunities to explore curiosity and creativity and exploration are instantly empowered. You can do telepathy, you can do telekinesis, you can teleport, you can do all this stuff by instantaneous thought, and you control it. So those are 4D and 5D concepts. So life is easier, and it's bigger, and it's faster, and it's easier. that's why.
I want to show this for some folks and just
Yeah,
a little bit of levity.
this is a good one.
Yeah, because we talk about ascending into fourth density and fifth density. Over the
Yes.
next few weeks, Jesus appeared to his disciples and many other witnesses. Then he ascended into heaven. And this one guy in the crowd says, Where? I can't see him.
And
That
everyone else is pointing at him. Yeah.
yeah. And everybody's pointing to Jesus in the sky. And this is categorized as ascension deficit disorder.
Yeah, switching from 3D to 4D is not easy for everybody. For most people, it takes several lifetimes, and it's possible to not be able to do it this time either. And there's speculation about what that looks like, but we'll talk about that at the end of the show a little more. So to stay on task, we're talking more about what does it take to get from 3 to 4. All right. There is who qualifies is a good way to couch this next part of of my commentary. Who qualifies? What yardstick is there that says a 3D person is ready to go to 4D? You can't jump 4 to go to 5, by the way. You have to go 3 to 4. 4x like a doorway. It's very short. You live in the 3, you live in the 5. 4 is the only portal through. So how do you get into that 4? Well, the yardstick they use has a karmic aspect to it so that the third density people can do it, can relate to it, can understand it. And it has a 4D aspect to it too. For clarity, I'll say it. There's 2 ways you can get qualified to go from 3 to 4. The first way is you have to spend 51% of your life in service to others. If you want to run that banner by on the screen there, Iris, that would be awesome because I know people like numbers. And that helps. 51% of your life, the things you do, the things you say, the things you think, the things you feel. Every qualification of the word do, D-O, everything you do in your whole lifetime, childhood, teenager, adult, senior, all of it. 51% of your life has to be spent in service to others. An interesting sidebar, that question that I've heard many times when I've brought this up before. What about taking care of myself? I do like being in service to other people. I'm in service to other people all the time. What about me taking care of me? Does that count against my 51+%? No. Taking care of yourself, especially, all of you that are parents, mommy has to take care of mommy so that mommy can be a good mommy for Junior, or for the kids, for Bubba and Sissy in the local vernacular. So when your service to yourself ultimately benefits others, by intention, and we all know
Right.
that intention is what moves the world, then that's also in service to others. So keep in mind, there's gray areas in here. This is not a black and white. Oh, you only did 49.8% of your life. Woo! There's gray areas, but just to give people a number you can grasp, you have to spend the majority, more than half, which by the numbers is 51%. You have to spend more than half of your life in service to others with good intention, intentionally. All right. We got a good meme for that. What
When
does it
you've
say?
completed all of Earth's lessons, but have to come back to help humanity evolve before they destroy the entire planet. And that little baby's got this wicked look on his face, like I am so
Mr. Scowl. I just want grouchy baby, eh?
yeah.
He's
And
cute.
your description reminds me, if you've ever seen the movie Constantine, and
Yeah.
it's one of those movies I can watch
Yeah.
again and again and again and
Yeah.
again and again. And I was just watching it last night, in fact, as I was going to sleep, I was watching some of it. And there's this point where, Constantine is talking to Gabriel, and he said, the angel, and he says, he knows that he's going to go to hell because when he dies, because he killed himself, but was brought back when he was a teenager. And he said, but, and it was because he was born with what Gabriel likes to call a gift of being able to see things for in their true form. So he would see people that were really demons or whatever. And he was seeing all these things, and then he was having to go through treatment. Anyway, it's a really good movie, how they explain it. But he says, I'm constantly helping people. I'm constantly, he was doing exorcisms and, getting rid of woo-woo stuff, whatever he could do. And he said, doesn't that count for something? And she said, you're doing it. You can't buy your way into heaven. You're doing it because
As a
you're
labor.
looking for a payoff.
Right.
You've got to do it for yourself, or do it selflessly.
You have to do it from heart.
Yeah.
You have to do it from a heart frequency just to stay in the correct terminology of what we're trying to convey. And that is an excellent point. And there are other movies that touch on that, one with a sense of humor. I cannot remember the name of it, but Matt Damon and Ben Affleck did a funny one.
Dogma.
Yeah, that's it. Dogma. Dogma tells the story from their perspective as well about trying to get back in. By the way, going to 4th D and 5D, yes, that is an interpretation of going to heaven. All right, in the religious terminology, that's a parallel word for it. So, and it's accurate. So, yep, you have to be in service to others with intention of coming from heart. And same thing going up into 5D. This awesome meme here.
Yeah, this guy is sitting at a computer dressed in.
He's a Hindu god.
Okay, thank you. And
Might be Tibetan.
when you've ascended to 5D, but you have to help save everyone online. So he's all dressed up, but he's there at the computer trying to help.
He's got all his regalia on and a computer mouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
His little employee badge. It was really cute.
Yeah. It just makes you wonder what the heck is behind that story.
Somebody was getting ready for Mardi Gras and had to go to work real quick.
Yeah.
And uncrash a computer. Nancy liked that one too. All right. So the easiest way that most people can understand is doing more than half of your life in conscientious, intentional frequency of service to others. What is service to others? Iris, can you throw out some examples of what is service to others
It
from
can
heart?
be,
From heart?
yeah, from, well, and I think it's, to me, when you're doing it, you know it's a good thing. I mean, it
Yeah.
feels right. And it can be anything, really
Yeah.
anybody,
Yeah.
anywhere can do it. It can be your local garage mechanic because he's doing things honestly, and he's somebody comes in and they can't pay, and he's willing to work with them on their payments, and he's always the nice guy that you know
Always the nice guy. Yeah.
yeah,
Not
you know
lording it over their head. Right.
yeah. And I mean, you can have teachers and doctors and lawyers and all that. You can have any occupation. I look at those garbage men. There's a video where these garbage men come to this house, and there's twins that live there, and they're always excited to see him on garbage day. And they bring him water, and they do so those kids are doing stuff, but the garbage men are genuinely happy
Happy.
to see those kids
Yeah.
and talk to them and call them by name, and
Give them
engage
hugs.
with them. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, and the other thing is, they're the garbage men are black, the kids are white, so skin color doesn't come into it. It's just all pure heart, and it's like everybody involved there. You just
They're
know,
they're all laughing and
yeah,
giggling and smiling and hey, how you doing? And you're my friend and I love you, and waving and jumping up and down, just happy, happy, happy. Yeah,
yes,
for real, genuine happy. And the mom that's filming it, you can hear her chuckling and smiling, and you see her little hand come out and wave, hey guys.
and so and I think when you're doing stuff from heart,
Yeah.
that feeling is going to come out regardless of what you're doing.
Right.
And
Right.
there's and it's those in the moment kind of things,
When it becomes a part of your lifestyle, every moment becomes that.
exactly. You can
Yeah.
go through the checkout line and put a smile on a cashier's face and change your whole day.
Yeah.
And
It
if
can
you're
be,
doing it,
yeah.
I just do it just to be nice. And
Just to be nice is key.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
just like, and on the flip side, if you go in grouchy and grumpy and arguing with people all the time, that's not how you should be feeling, you
No,
know.
that's not
So
service to others.
no,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but
You did. You did. You actually, and very naturally, because you're an evolved person, you took it to the next level.
oh, okay,
On a more basic level, rattling off, you did say some things, being nice in the checkout line, when you're servicing cars and being a nice person about it, or being a generous person when you can be about it. Even the little things in every moment. You can wash the dishes and be grateful that you have running water and dishes and food and healthy kids and family and a roof and a sink to do this stuff, and you're grateful for the experience of touching the water and the slippery experience and the water dynamics and find the heat of the water, and get into it a little bit and just enjoy it. Maybe make it playtime with the kids a little bit with the bubbles, or it can be a drudge and dang it, it's my turn to do the slimy, nasty dishes. All this stuff's crunchy. Nobody's helping me. That's not service to self. The second part there. And it can be that tedious or small, or it can be really huge, such as giving to your favorite charity because you want to. All right. Helping a neighbor carry in their groceries, or change their oil, or close their mailbox lid that fell open so that the rain doesn't get in it, or take in their package, or volunteering at a soup kitchen, either on a holiday or all year long, always because you want to be nice, not because you think or feel obligated to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as long as if you feel shoulda, if you feel resistance and I am not in the mood for this, that's not certain. You can still do it, but it's not quite service to self. However, another sidebar, there is a popular theory of fake it till you make it. How many times have you started doing something that you're like, I am not in the mood for this, I'm too tired, and you go do it just because you're supposed to, and halfway through you realize, hey, I'm kind of enjoying this. This is cool. This is a lot more. Oh wow, I'm into it.
Yeah, yeah,
Would be. Yeah, that can happen too. This is the power of service to others
yeah.
coming from heart. It can even heal you, make you happier and healthier while you're actually dosing out that medicine to someone else.
Yes.
You're going to benefit too. It's a really cool side effect.
And
Nancy says, yep,
it grows exponentially.
it does.
If you once you do it and then you realize and you fall into that easier, it helps so much. Just like when you start spiraling downward and being negative,
That's
negativity.
addictive too. That's
Yeah.
influential too.
And
Yes.
so and the so when you see yourself kind of being negative, if you can stop it, okay,
Deep
what's
breath,
the
step
positive?
back, stop
Yeah,
talking. Yeah. Change the
exactly.
scenery, change your energy, change your vibration,
Yay!
change your attention, which means move your focus to something else. That can help you shift back to a healthier spot. Nancy made a good comment. She's, yep, service without condition, being present and mindful provides opportunities.
Yes.
Absolutely good. Absolute succinctness on how to say that. That's perfect. Those are excellent descriptions. Thank you. So, remember I said there's two ways to get into fourth D, or two ways to qualify to get into fourth dimension or density. I'm running those two together too. The other way is a lot more controversial and therefore much interesting. All right. Very much interesting. If in this third density life, 51% of service to others will get you qualified for fourth density. 95% of your life in service to self will get you into fourth density. What is service to self? Typically in this lifetime on this planet, people who are in service to self are also qualified as negative, nefarious, evil, dark, all kinds of 3D duality words that are subjective, because what's good to one person is not good to someone else. What's evil to one person, to one culture or person, is nowhere near evil to another culture or person. So those kinds of labels, where while they are relative, a more clear definition of the two types is service to others and service to self.
Can
Okay.
I interject? Isn't that also some of those people decided before they came
Yeah.
that they were going to
Mm-hmm.
have those roles in
Mm-hmm.
order to teach other people
Mm-hmm.
and to be guiding other people maybe in how not to, or to be an example. Yeah, thank you. And so on this side we're going, God, that guy's a bastard. He's
How
just
many
pure
times have you met
evil.
people that you're like, you're an example of what not to do?
Yeah, yeah. And then but then they their reward is when they're gone.
They
They've
actually they gain karmic footage on the other side after they die.
Yeah.
This lifetime, this conscious lifetime is not the only time you gain those. That's a really good point that we didn't talk about earlier. You gain let's call them brownie points. Okay. I'm not quite sure what they call them elsewhere, but let's say you gain points or brownie points, or you gain measure on the other side too. So yeah, people that do nefarious, that sign up life contracts to do nefarious, evil, dastardly deeds, they help other people do good stuff to countermeasure that, to counterbalance that. And those people usually sign up for that in a contract before they're born. Part of the perk is, on the other side, while what you suffer the karma of doing that on earth, but on the other side, you get the karmic points for being in service to others ultimately.
Yeah.
Not every nefarious deed is like that in some theories. Other theories say that all nefarious deeds are like that. That is a philosophical, spiritual, religious debate that has been going on for thousands of years. It's fascinating that we're bringing it up here. Yeah,
Dirty deeds done dirt cheap.
We need some soundtrack, right?
Yeah, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So a popular question at this point is, hold on. Fourth dimension is about heart, love, coming from love. It takes 51% good deeds, service to others, to get there. How in the hell does somebody who is 95% over their whole life in service to self, how the hell do they get into heaven, to the heart density, the loving density? What? And that seems confusing. So you go to the next level with it, dig behind that. Switch it around in the opposite direction, shoe on the other foot, walk a mile in someone else's moccasins, yada, 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 and you'll understand. The easiest way to explain it is, what if you had to be 95% of your whole life in service to others? Could you do that? Iris is pretty sure she could pull off 80% pretty easy plus.
I love how you. Margot thinks so, because that's why she's putting that in my mouth. I don't know.
No, she never said that. I made that up. But
Yeah.
most parents kind of feel that way. School teachers kind of feel that way. Social workers and medical and human services, that's they're called, human services, they kind of feel that way. And they're like, oh, I could do 80 plus, 90 plus all day long. As a child, you were always the go-to person, the rescue person, the little mama, the little daddy, everybody's big brother, everybody's big sister kind of energy. Yeah, that's part of it. But you'd be hard pressed. Most people would be hard pressed to be 95% in service to others and only 5% in service to yourself. You basically would be dead. All right. You would
I mean, how many times have you told somebody, you need to take care of yourself? Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others.
How often are we constantly reminding each other, take care of yourself so that you can take care of others? All right. And people are like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. No, you're not fine. And there's services for people of service all the time, caretaker support services. All right. So switch that back to where we were. People who are 95% in service to self, this type of life journey, this isn't something you figure out as an adult and suddenly start doing it. This is a life journey, which means you contracted for it before you were born. If you are 95% in service to self, you are operating at a very intense level of spirituality and spiritual practice, an extreme focus of intention, extreme self-discipline of intention to keep everything 95%. That's pretty much everything. That's very little. I mean, feeding yourself and picking up a spoon and putting the food in your mouth, taking a drink of water, that's about it for a percentage of over a lifetime. Sleeping once in a while, that would be the opposite. And that'd be it. Basic needs, basic survival needs. But the rest of the time, you're in service to the other side. All right, switching it back. 95% service to self is such an intense spiritual journey that it qualifies you for the fourth level. It is such an intense spiritual expression for love of self. Remember, this is a love thing. This is a heart thing. This is such an intense experience about love of self that you're qualified. If you're going to go at it that hard, 95%, if you're going to go at it that hard, you qualify. Now, having said that, that means the majority of other beings that are at the fourth density level with you, once you're in there, majority of them are nice people who did more than half of service to others, and they want to help you and you want to help them, and it's very communal and cooperative, and that's the majority of the people you meet. Once in a while, you will meet somebody who's not, because they hit 95% plus of service to self. However, that's where the buck stops with service to self. To go to fifth density, remember, 4 is a doorway into 5. You don't stay there very long, relatively speaking. You can't be doing anything but service to others at fifth density and higher, 6, 7, 8. It stops at 4. 4 is the last place you can be in service and still evolve. It's the last level of evolution that you can still be in service to self. Very hard to get there, but it's the last one. To go from 4 to 5, beings that are in service to self, 95% dedication. They suddenly have to realize that everything they care about, everything they've ever worked for across thousands of lifetimes and millions of pieces of sacrifice to be in service to self at the exquisite level of 95%, all of it gone. Every bit of it. You now have to be completely opposite and be in service to others. If you think about it, that's mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. The journey that these entities have to take. If they choose to go from 4 to 5. Well, eventually you get bored at 4, you're going to want to go to 5. So you're going to have to give up everything that you've ever believed in, ever sacrificed for, everything. And
But
go
no, just because,
woo!
but somebody who is in service to themselves in this lifetime,
Right.
the 95%, doesn't mean that they've always been that way, does it?
Right.
Yeah,
It's in this lifetime.
Yeah.
It has to be in the lifetime that you choose to shift.
Yeah. Nancy mentioned something that I just, when she says such as an addict, and I would dare say that an addict, while we think of them as sometimes being, oh, they're just selfish, they only care about themselves. That's, first of all, that's not half their life. You rarely, most addicts are
that's
shorter.
only a part of their life. That's not their whole life. Yeah.
And the other thing is, a lot of people get there because of trauma that they've experienced, because of a lack of coping skills, perhaps as a service to someone else to teach them that,
someone
think
else
about,
was in service to self and not their child. The child got neglected. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and when you think about the duality on this level, and how in third density, we are quickly judgmental about other people, It's real easy to, and look at that drug addict. He's putting his mama through hell. He steals her medication, he steals her money, he does this and does that. What is mama doing to take care of herself? And what is he doing to help her to learn that she has the right to set up boundaries and she
Right.
has the right to not be codependent? And Nancy, I get, she does realize that all lives are spiritual, yes.
Yeah,
But
I know she does. I know Nancy knows that. Yeah.
yeah, and so yeah, she's the mama.
She's
I
the
like to,
mama.
yeah, and so we sometimes people on a level that we aren't aware of because we don't realize, but they're actually there to help us learn something about ourselves, and they're willing to sacrifice on a spiritual level in order to make that happen. So in essence, they're completely in service to us when we would on the surface think, oh, they're being selfish. No, they're
It's actually a
teaching you.
fall guy situation.
Yeah.
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 They end up being a fall guy. They're taking the heat for someone else, so to
And
speak.
and Nancy says he has taught me so much. And Nancy, I
Yeah.
don't know you, and if I've brought up anything, that was not my intention as far as but that's interesting. I guess I honed in on that and didn't
Nancy's cool.
realize.
Nancy's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
I was just
Absolutely.
trying to come up with a vague example and show.
And it gets real specific suddenly, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So a follow-up question is, okay, so those are qualifiers. What qualifies you to go to 4 and 5? What qualifies you to go service to self and service to others? I think, yeah, using common sense, yeah, you can figure out what's service to self versus what's service to others. In every single action, thought, or deed you might do or have done. The question then is, what is it like? There you go. Nancy says she's already living in 4D, so she doesn't get upset about such things. Yeah, that's my experience of Nancy. She comes across as she's hip. She's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
curious about what are we going to say because she's already aware of her experience. What's it like? How do you actually, is there something you got to do to suddenly experience 4D?
Sign the guest register here.
Yeah. Turn around put on your red ruby shoes, turn around 3 times and click your heels together and say, I want to go home. I want to go home. I'm not in Kansas anymore. Really, you know what you should be saying? Let go. The magic phrase is let go. And that applies to everything in life that is not serving you. Therefore, it does not move you forward in density or anything else. But 4D will come to you. The 4D experience looks, feels different for every single human. So we can describe all day, and then when it happens to you, it's nothing like that. You basically know you're in 4D after you're already in it. It's not like you're sitting there and all of a sudden you waft out of your chair and you're floating around the room and you look at your hand and it's glowing like Hollywood. No. Although I'm sure there are people that happens. There probably are people that happens. It happens all kinds of ways. People pass out and wake up with a different awareness. People go to sleep and the next morning they wake up with a different awareness. Somebody's yelling at their child and takes a breath to start off and yelling at him again, and they look in the child's eyes and suddenly they can see the love of God and all the light of the universe coming out of their child's eyes, and all their anger just instantly disappears, and they come from complete compassion out of their heart, and all they want to do is undo all the yelling that they just did. The child completely understands. Big hug, musical moment, life is grand. That's another way it can show up. For some people, you die. And when you leave your body, you go find out what 4D is about. For other people, You're born. You were 3D in your mommy's belly, and you come out into the world, and you're pretty much a Buddha baby. You hardly cry. You have, and you're very, very wise. You understand multiple languages by the time you're a year old. You can write. You can drive a car when you're 3. I don't
Yeah.
know. You can come into this world that way. Um, there's stories of gurus. They've written autobiographies. One lady in India, a roach walked across her foot, and then instantly she had the aha, and she became enlightened. That's their word. That's one of their words for it. She became enlightened when a roach walked across her shoe. Other people have had food, have had sex, have had car crashes, um, have walked out of a dark room and saw a sunbeam of light coming through on the other side, and suddenly they get it, and just music. Oh, music will shift you in a heartbeat. I can't believe I forgot that one. Listening to um, specific hertz of music, tip classical music has it very much. Meditation music has it very much. That type of music, classic rock has the right cadence to it, for the right hertz wavelength for these kinds of things. That will shift people. Meditating will shift you temporarily until you learn how to meditate 24/7, which is possible. All right, that's another way to do it. On and on and on. There's lots of ways to experience it. Really, you stay in service to self to help others. You stay in service to others. 4D comes to you, whatever that looks like. And once it's happening, then you'll realize, oh, because it'll feel very natural. It'll feel very, of course, it'll feel very normal. And only looking back will you realize, wait a minute, I haven't done it like this in eons, perhaps never. Wow, this is really awesome. And you realize your life is vibrating up here instead of doing this number like it normally does. Instead, it's going da 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 at a higher level. Well, that's a 4th density. All your decisions are coming from compassion. All your thoughts are coming from compassion. Even your mean, petty thoughts, they don't stay, or they transform, or they become funny on a spiritual level to you. Everything comes from compassion and or heart. And the more you do that, everything becomes more and more unconditional, unconditional love. So that's in terms of what does that actually look like or feel like. It's different for everybody. I hate to say it, but you'll know when you get there. You'll know when you get there. One of the reasons that I skipped over for why shift from 3 to 4 to 5, you guys are hearing bits and pieces, and some of you know a lot about a new technology coming out to the public. It's been around for quite a while, but it's coming out to the public, called med beds, medical beds. And the word on the in the know street is that you have to be at 4th and 5th density to benefit from a med bed. 3rd density people don't benefit from med beds. Their vibration is not high enough for the machine, which works on quantum physics levels, which is a higher vibration than 3D physics, regular physics. It's metaphysics. All right, quantum physics levels work on the 3D, 4D awareness and 5th density awareness, or 5th dimensional awareness. So there's another reason for it. If you want to benefit from the near future use of med beds, you got to be able to vibrate on the 4th and 5th density level, however that looks to you. Spiritual practices will get you there faster. But they have to be genuine. You can't just go to church and pray and pretend. You can't just sit quietly for a long time in a yoga studio and stretch once in a while and pretend. You have to actually participate in some spiritual practice that means something to you, to use spirituality for that end and that gain. And the understanding is that's the only way. Whether you're in service to self or service to others, you have to start generating for yourself some type, any type of a spiritual aspect to your life, a spiritual practice, a spiritual belief, a spiritual aspect, whatever you want to call it. But you got to get abstract. You have to get abstract. Nancy says, I have heard that there is an intuitive, maybe maybe intentional, a better word, component to the med beds. Yes, this is the component we're talking about. Those things do not work in the third density as well, if at all. I have not heard the results of a 3D trying to use a med bed, what actually happens. I have heard.
I'm melting.
That could happen. I don't know. We need cartoons for that.
Yeah, really. Let me while we're here, just throw this one up.
Oh yeah.
When you can't go home because you've been tasked to help humanity transition into 5D and the whole human race keeps pissing you off. Hold me back, fam. Hold me back.
Hold me back. It's a Renaissance painting of an alien and his human mommy.
Yeah.
Human mommy.
Oh.
Yeah, there are times. There are times.
But that's because we are human.
Because we are human. Absolutely. The fact that you're human means you have automatic access to choose to go into fourth and fifth density if you wish. And it really is a choice. You're not preordained to fail or to succeed. Free will plays into this tremendously. You choose service to self, service to others, or stand back and observe and not participate at all. But when you don't participate, you also don't win the prize. But you have that choice.
Yeah, there's no prizes for just participation or
for just observing.
Yeah.
Right. There's no prize for just observing. But there is in a sense that you gain wisdom and insight that you might use later, but that would be participating. That's not observing anymore. So you can have fun with that if you'd like. So going from fourth to fifth density is a whole nother process. And it's fun. And I'm seeing the cartoons, pop it all the way back up because I love Big Bird.
The great Big Bird's on a horse-drawn carriage, and he's squawking, and it says, "The great awakening of human consciousness is happening. We ride at dawn, bitches."
Yeah, imagine Big Bird saying we ride at dawn, bitches.
Yeah.
Hey, Randy. Hey, sweetheart. So, yeah, absolutely. I know you guys. That's a popular phrase that we haven't said yet. The Great Awakening, the Great Shift, the Global Shift. All those words are talking about what we mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, that the whole planet is shifting, and all the peoples and the animals and the trees and the birds and the fish and the insects and the creepy crawlies and slitheries and wings and legs and everything and fins and everything, and the blobs and the plasmas and the fungi and everything is shifting up, and it's shifting into a 4D into a 5D. Gaia is shifting.
Yeah, and I want to say that, if you're skeptical or whatever, you don't have to depend on us. You can look this up. And this is science.
Look it up.
Science has proven the vibrational levels are changing.
Everywhere.
And we know, I've known for, music has vibration, people have vibration, electricity, all that stuff is just common knowledge, but you can find it. Another thing is, a lot of people think, when people talk about ascending and they're talking about, doing all this stuff, they're crazy. They put you in the
That's
category of Heaven's Gate people and all. We're talking millions of
people.
people
Yeah,
that
that's a
are
disempowerment.
aware.
That's a disempowerment to poo-poo somebody else's belief system.
Yeah,
That's
it's
trying
not
to
just
make you
something
small.
that we're not on the woo woo train or the,
This isn't
drinking
woo-woo.
the
This is
Kool Aid.
science.
Yeah,
Yeah.
drinking the Kool Aid or whatever. This is
Drinking the Kool-Aid. I just made that connection because it is fruit juice, but it's good for your pineal, which is
I
good for
put
your
lemonade in
evolution.
my iced tea. Is that?
Apricot nectar, y'all. It's good for your pineal gland. Look it
I
up.
need to remember to get some of that. That's good stuff. It's
Yeah, and
good.
it's tasty too. It's kind of like
Yeah,
a cross between pineapple and peach, but it's milder than that.
yeah. But
So
anyway,
Randy
but yeah,
says energy off the charts, moods crazies. Swains heard a new term last night. I'm sure he'll bust it up here for us in just a second. But yeah, how many of you guys are experiencing cell phone F-ups, computer glitches, communication glitches, even on an emotional level, nothing to do with technology? Your TV is doing something weird. Your car's doing something weird. Your work machines are doing something weird. Your kids are doing something weird. Your dog is doing something really weird. I'm dragging that out just a little bit. But have you noticed that's happening more and more and more? And it's not just once or twice a year, maybe. It's happening every week and every day. Your wristwatch is screwing up. You can't find things. They're disappearing. Little things, usually that have a metal component, and then they suddenly reappear somewhere else, like keys or necklaces or the screws and nails from a project suddenly appear somewhere else, and there's nobody else in the house but you. The dog doesn't have an opposing thumb. you know. Oh, Randy said the new word that he heard last night was incension instead of ascension. My cat stays glued to me. Yeah. Your dog. Oh, I forgot. Yeah. Everybody's pets are suddenly very, very codependent. They sit with you, they stare at you, or they stare at the space above your head a lot. They stare at your child. Their real separation anxiety goes up. It's hard for them. Yep. Angie's on there. She says, yep, she knows about her pets doing that too. Hey, Angie. These are all symptoms that the vibration is going up. And if all of 3 is going to shift into 4, or the majority of 3 is going to shift into 4, guess what's going to happen at 1 and 2? I was going to say, Iris, that's where there's a correlation. If all these 3s are going to go to 4s, then all the 2s are going to move up too. So
the rocks and stones themselves will start to sing. I'm sorry, Jesus Christ Superstar. If you don't know it, look it up.
remember,
Thank you, Tim Rice.
there you go. Now, there's miniature cycles inside of each level. So things that are 2-dimensional, such as rocks and trees, they'll flip into being animals next, wild animals, in their next incarnation, and they'll do that for a while, and then those wild animals will reincarnate as domestic animals, and they'll live many life cycles in that, and then that's when the 2s go to 3s. They go, oh, that's what it's like to be a human, and they switch to a 3. So rocks are not going to become humans, but they will become plants or primitive animals. And the primitive animals move up and they move up and they move up. So there you go. A lot of angelic beings. You mentioned 2 of them: Jesus, Buddha. Those are 5th density beings. A lot of angelics, such as Gabriel, archangels, and ascended masters. Those are 5, 6, 7, 8, but they start coming from the 5 as well. In 5, you're 100% of the purpose of your existence is to be in service to others. You don't have a physical body anymore at 5D. You are completely a being of energy and or light. So you don't have to breathe. You don't have to maintain a body. You don't have to worry about gravity. You don't have to worry about aging. You don't have to worry about having babies. You don't have to worry about protecting yourself. You don't have to worry about protecting anyone else. You don't have to have a house. You don't have to have a job. You don't have to live on Earth. You can live out in space, or you can live under a lake, or you can live anywhere you want. Your sole purpose is in service to others. That's why we get so many helper beings coming from fifth density. It's a new job for them. Yeah, they're enthusiastic, and they're not so far that they forgot what it's like to be a 3D. So they're very enthusiastic about helping us about, oh, you have got to try this. This is here, let me help you get there. And they do. They give us advice, they give us support, they give us energy. So they're still they can still remember. And so it goes from there. But yeah, there's a lot of them coming from that level. But in 5D, that's all you're doing is helping other people. Because you don't need help anymore. You're awesome. Yeah.
Nancy says, yeah, I think my Zoe is ready for 3D. But Ziggy Stardust, I'm assuming that's another pet in her life, may be stuck a while.
Here, Nancy.
Yeah.
I think we've all had pets that were like, yeah, you're going to own the world in a little while, and you're still going to be munching on doggy kibble for a while. I love you, but you're.
How was the rock life for you?
Have you considered going back to rock life for a while? You were a really happy tree, weren't you?
You were a tree and got pissed on. Now you're pissing on trees. Isn't that wonderful?
You came back just to piss on another tree, didn't you? You have really unconventional, insane conversations with your pets at this point. And yes, sense of humor exists at all of those levels, all the way up. Sense of humor.
Yes.
So enjoy.
I was so glad to learn that, because, you know, it's like you feel like, oh, there has to be a sense of reverence, and it's like joy and reverence and humor are all expressions of a similar energy. Yeah, there's a time and place for reverence. There's more time and places for joy and frivolity. Humor is awesome all the way up. If you don't think God has a sense of humor, you're not paying attention. Yes. Well, I think, if anybody's got a question, go ahead and ask. But it's about time for us to close out, or past time for us to close out.
Type quickly if you have a question. Glad to try to help.
But I'm going to show next week. Remind you that next week we've got Paul Nixon joining us. He is a fascinating man from Ireland. The house in this slide is actually his grandmother's house in Ireland, where he grew up. And he's going to talk about his experiences, primarily beginning at the mountain in County Sligo, where my grandmother lived beneath and inspired me with the world of fairies and the supernatural. He has got stories that are just
about supernatural cool stuff.
Yes, he is just a fascinating, delightful man. I've worked with him. He's in Greensboro, and I'm looking forward to having him with us next week. I think that's going to be a
thank you for getting him on the show, sweetie. That was
we were fortunate. He was willing to do it. He actually had sent me. He was on somebody else's podcast regarding some of his artwork and inspirations behind it, and he shared that with me in a private message. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Hey, that gives me an idea. You need to be on our podcast. Sure. We're
absolutely, yeah. He's a professional artist on top of the wonderful stories that he has, right?
Yes.
He's a very popular sculptor.
Yeah. He does sculpting, carvings, painting, photography.
And Renaissance man.
He's done stuff like taking a schooner from like New York to Australia,
Oh,
with a
yachtsman.
crew.
He's a yeah.
Yeah.
He's a boat. He's a boatman and a yachtsman. Yeah.
I mean, he's done all
Wow.
these, the ones with the big sails and stuff, been on the crew, and he's had some interesting experiences. Even with that, he found some shaman on some like itty bitty island in the
Oh
South
yeah.
Pacific, and was determined to, he said it was terrible, but I found a guide that would take him, and he was like, "Oh no, you can't see him." He's like, "Oh, I want to see him." And so
You
we'll
gotta
pull some
meet
of those.
him.
Yeah, we'll pull some of those stories out of him, and I know he's got plenty to tell, and he's already shared a bunch of pictures and things with me that. And he's like, "Do you need more?" And I'm like, "Paul, it's an hour." But it's going to be fascinating. We might have to have him on twice. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Talk about his travels. Talk about Ireland and that magic. Talk about the magic he experienced in his travels, and even the magic he experienced doing his artwork, because he's done a lot of spiritual art, artistry as well.
Well, and even being a new foreigner in New York, and how he just instantly connected with some people and the goodness of their hearts, and they helped him. It's just, he's had a very magical life. It's,
Perfect.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Some
excited.
people come in here already trying to influence us into the fourth. Music, artwork, writing, storytelling, all those things can help shift you towards the fourth and fifth D. Absolutely.
Yes. He does writing too. I figured so.
Yes,
Anyway,
writing too. Even
uh,
podcasts.
yeah. So it's been delightful. Thank you, Margot, for sharing all that
Thank you, Miss
information.
Iris. Absolutely. I look
Uh,
forward to next week, and I'll talk to you soon.
all righty. All
Guys,
right.
we love you. Namaste. Thank you for being
Namaste.
with us tonight.
Thank
Sleep well,
you.
everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining The Eyes of Indigo with Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod of Incomptech.com, licensed under Creative Commons. Visit our Facebook page for broadcast details, www.facebook.com/Eyes of Indigo. Show is copyrighted 2021 by Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears, all rights reserved.